Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathalie, and I'm the Executive Director of Choice for Youth Sexuality, a youth-led organization in the Netherlands. We are 22 years old, and we are very much alike a 22-year-old young person. We have been going through all of the different stages of growing up. We had to identify what are our strengths, we had to define our values, we changed our looks a couple of times, and we were growing a lot over the last couple of years, so we had to define our structure and how do we go about all of these different stages. So growing up comes with opportunities, and it comes with challenges. And one of the challenges, the most important challenge that we face, is the following. As a young person, as a youth-led organization, and if we want to do our work, and if we want to make the impact that we want to make, we need one fundamental thing: funding. Funding to do what we want, funding to stand on our own, funding to make the impact that we want to make, and funding to connect to other youth-led organizations all around the world, and to make the impact that we want to make together. And this is not just our story. It's a story of many youth-led organizations all around the world. We talked to over 130 youth-led organizations, and they all come to the same conclusion. There is a fundamental lack of investing in youth-led organizations and funding their projects. A lot of youth-led organizations, they face hard requirements for organizations that are just a couple of years old, and organizations that face a lot of turnover and need capacity strengthening. They have requirements of big budgets, long track records, governance structures that simply some youth organizations cannot meet. Of course, they also need a lot of capacity strengthening, and we see sometimes a decrease in funding made available, core funding made available, to invest in what we can do and how we can grow as organizations. And we also heard from a lot of youth-led organizations that they have trouble navigating into the space, because it's quite a complex space to see where can we access funding, and what donors are there available to fund our projects. How about the donors? Because we also talked to them. We talked to over 15 major donors, and they actually want the same thing. They say, we also want to invest in those youth. We also want to invest in the young people that are grassroots and that they know how to make that impact. They know what their community needs, but how do we engage with them? They have the same struggles that the youth actually face. And also, they have certain requirements from the people they are accountable to, or even governments governments of the countries that they want to work in. So what we did is we combined this research, and we developed this toolkit that is basically about youth-led funding. It's for young people. It's for young people to navigate in this very hard and complicated world of donors. And it's also for funders who say, okay, how can we go about this? Because we found some funding organizations and grant makers who have actually very interesting models to go to those youth, to fund those youth. We saw grant makers who have specific youth funding, who are with small grants and flexible requirements. We saw grant makers that have participatory grant-making systems, where actually the youth themselves help in picking the programs that they think are the most important. So there's a lot of also best practices that we'd like to share in this toolkit. And we think that this toolkit is kind of the first step into a longer trajectory, because we want to bring those donors who want the same as the young persons and the young people and the youth-led organizations, we want to bring them together to engage into this conversation of how can we go for that model that makes sure that we come together and we create that impact that we want, namely to make sure that youth organizations are actually participating in making sure that youth SRHR is advocated for. So, what we want to do is get that conversation together. We have a lot of donors that are on board and that want to work with us. And I'm also inviting you to, if you have any ideas, come to me and talk to me. Come to my colleague Haryanti, who is sitting here in the front, because we want to hear what your thoughts are on this, and we want to take this conversation further. And ideally, we would like to co-create together with donors, young people, and other people that are interested, co-create this model that can make lasting change, that can make sure that youth-led organizations are on board. We have a lot of toolkits. You can also find them on our social media, on our website, choiceforyouth.org or youthdoit.org. And thank you very much. Let's make sure we invest in youth impact together.